What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we have the keys to the Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat, the 6.4 liter supercharged 707 horsepower muscle car. So this is going to be a pretty cool car to drive and see what it has to offer. Huge shout out and thank you to Carolina Auto Direct for providing this Challenger for today's video. They have a huge selection of awesome pre-owned cars, and this car in purple looks pretty awesome. So anyways, let's hop in this thing and see what it's like. Alright guys, so we are setting off in the Hellcat now. You can probably already hear the supercharger whine. This thing already has so many amazing noises, and being a massive 8-cylinder HEMI, of course, it has a good exhaust note as well. So right now we'll just start off in just basic mode, kind of get our bearings with what it's like to drive a Hellcat like this. First off, the driver view and viewpoint that you see, you have a huge hood out front. It's been a long time since I have driven a Challenger, and the hood is literally like 8 feet away from me. It is so long up there. This is definitely a big car. It is way bigger than a Mustang or a Camaro, and just being in this now, I drove a Camaro literally last week and a Mustang the week before that. This is drastically larger. This is a pretty big car. You have a huge glass piece in front of you and large side view windows as well, and the rear view is actually a really good view out. Mirrors all do a good job. You have pretty good visibility over your left shoulder. Your right shoulder is slightly compromised. The C-pillar is huge in this car, but the window on your left really helps out a lot. So it's pretty good visibility overall. As far as getting comfortable, this is a big, spacious car. I don't think anybody of any size could honestly fit in this. I'm 5'11", and I'm fitting here with like 4 or 5 inches of headroom, and I could easily be wearing a helmet if I were on the drag strip with this car. The seating position is pretty good. You can get pretty comfortable in it, and the seats have a lot of bolstering on the sides, and they're pretty comfortable. Steering wheel's in a good place, of course, right in front of you, but you know, it feels nice with the leather on it. Has good notches for your thumbs. As far as just normal driving, we're going about 45 miles an hour right now, and under normal cruising, it's really comfortable. The suspension is doing a great job absorbing all of the bumps, and it just feels like a good, comfortable Grand Touring car, something that you could rack up some miles on and actually take on some long hauls. Turning circle, or at least turning a tighter turn, you can still tell it is a big car. So anyways, let's go into the manual mode, and now we can shift on the paddle shifters here. The shifters are kind of small. They're only the 2 inches above the steering wheel here. There's nothing on the bottom. You have radio controls right here. So I wish they were a lot larger, like you get in the T-Rex. But nonetheless, that supercharger whine. Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh, and those brakes. That is one thing I noticed when I just drove it over to this spot. These Brembo brakes absolutely rip the skin off your face. That is impressive, and that is just quarter braking. Wow. So while you do have tiny little paddle shifters, the automatic is actually really responsive. I know a lot of people are going to be buying a Hellcat because they want that straight line power, they want drag racing, and this transmission, the 8-speed, is incredibly quick for if you're just doing the straight line. Oh man, I heard a little puff of the exhaust. But if you're doing the straight line performance, you know, the automatic is where it's at, especially for the quickest shift times for drag racing and things like that. You can opt these cars in a manual transmission, which I think is an awesome feature. A lot of new cars nowadays don't have manuals, but I love how all the muscle cars are still offering that, because they know their demographic. You know, they know probably 50% of the people buying a muscle car want a stick shift. So everything is nice and warmed up. Let's get up to speed just a little bit. Like I said, we have 707 horsepower. I won't go too crazy on it. Second gear. Wow. And the brakes equally are as powerful as the motor. I love how Dodge really did a good job balancing the power and the stopping power, because you can have a massive motor up front and get up to high speeds quickly, but if you can't stop, you're not really going to go far. I think those brakes are even more impressive than just the horsepower alone. But that was just quarter throttle. It got up to speed quickly. It didn't feel crazy fast. Again, I'm not going to, you know, floor it red line. I don't own the car, so I'm not going to rip on it like that. We'll get on it a little bit more though. But let's do a 3-point turn just to figure out some of those capabilities. It is a big car. Like, it really is huge. I am certainly not used to a two-door vehicle that is this big. So it does take a little bit getting used to. That hood is so far in front. So anyways, getting back up to some speed, we can also shift with the shifter down here, which is pretty cool. so good, especially on the overrun when you're cruising down through the revs. Man, that is a good sounding engine. Oh, that whine. And downshift sound good too. Alright, so we are in third gear. Actually, we'll drop it to second gear. So honestly, it's not crazy fast. I know it's got a huge motor with a ton of horsepower, but this car weighs a ton. I don't remember the exact specs, but I would assume, I think we're around 4,500 pounds or something, and or maybe low fours. But when you look at the competition, Camaros and Mustangs are in the 37, 38 range. My GTR is around that 37 or 38 range as well, and that makes 700 horsepower at the engine. This is definitely a lot slower than that. Not to say you can't tune this and put a smaller pulley, go E85 and make this 1,000 horsepower instantly, and then it'll be right on par with what I'm used to. But I will say it is very adequately powered for the size of it. It needs to be this powerful. If you drive the naturally aspirated V8s, they are quick, but they're really not that fast. And of course, if you get a V6 model, which is not even worth buying because that is incredibly slow, you know, that's just too much weight for a small engine like that. But this car, it's got a good power band, it's got a really good power delivery, and it's super smooth. And one of my friends had the Hellcat motor in his Jeep. It was the Trackhawk, of course, and with just fueling and a smaller pulley and tuning and a full exhaust, he made 800 at the wheels, which was around 1,000 at the engine. So obviously this car's a 1,000 horsepower motor with just a few basic modifications. But even with this in the stock form, it really just gets up to some speed. I love that about it. We'll do one more acceleration, and then we're going to go to the POV just so you guys can kind of experience it. But I'll go back to the second gear. Oh, that sounded good, and that was 4,000. Man, that exhaust sounds good. Yeah, that's pretty quick. That's pretty cool. As far as handling characteristics, you can tell it's a big car, and there is some body roll when you do it quickly left to right, but it's not that bad. You know, it's definitely designed to be a straight line car. Nobody's really going to be buying this because they want to rip it through the mountains or going on a smaller racetrack or something like that. This is going to be a car that straight line performance, getting up on the highway, things like that. I mean, this car is really going to have a lot of fun factor to it when you're doing that sort of thing. Audio. This thing sounds really good and definitely packs a nice punch. Comment below, what would you rather have? You got the Dodge, the Chevy, and the Ford. You know, all three of them make some really good muscle cars, and I think each car really kind of caters towards a different need. This car absolutely is a straight line powerhouse with modifications. This is a 1,000 horsepower car, and honestly you can get it to 1,000 at the wheels pretty quickly. On top of that, you have the interior space. You can actually fit full-grown adults in the back without even worrying about being compromised in headroom and legroom. I've been in the back. One of my aunts and uncles has one of these cars, and I've been in it a few years ago, but I was able to ride in the back with no issues. And then on the interior, you have a ton of space in here. The Camaro is definitely the smallest of the cars with very compromised rear space, but it's a much more hunkered down interior. And then the Mustang is kind of a good blend between the three. And then as far as performance goes, this one has the biggest motor, obviously. aspects, the fact that you can get these for really good prices now, and even kind of mix and match different options. You have the wide body options, of course, and some crazy colors, different transmissions, and things like that. But nonetheless, all three muscle cars definitely have their pros and cons. Comment below, what do you guys think of the Dodge Hellcat though? This is my first time driving the Hellcat. It is a pretty quick car and has a lot of drama to it, and I think with the modifications, that's where this car is really going to shine. So I think that's about it then for the SRT Hellcat. Comment below, what do you guys think of this muscle car? Huge shout out and thank you to Carolina Auto Direct for providing this car for today's video. They have a huge selection of awesome pre-owned vehicles, so definitely check them out. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.